A lot of people actually believe that encryption is a great solution to a lot of security problems. In fact, some people will tell you that encryption is kind of synonymous with security. So when somebody asks you, do you have security on your website? What they're really asking is, do you do encryption? Because a lot of people just kind of assume that that's really how you fix everything. Now, that's not necessarily true. So there's a tool called SSLScan. And SSLScan will actually scan for all of the different encryption ciphers and schemes that are being used on a particular website. So the reason for that is because there are actually versions of SSL and there are encryption ciphers that are actually vulnerable to attack. DES, for example, is vulnerable to attack, and older versions of SSL like SSL2 are open to attack. So what we want to do is we want to use SSLScan in order to very quickly determine what the ciphers that are supported on a different server are. Now again, you could probably do this just like many other tools. You could do this by hand if you wanted to. There are other ways of doing this. SSLScan just happens to be a really useful tool that's really good at doing that scanning. So what I want to do is I'm just going to do a scan against Google, and I'm going to say port 443, which is the SSL port for their web server. So it looks like we've got a number of accepted and a number of rejected. And all of the ones that are accepted are the ones that they actually support. So we would have to go and figure out which ones were actually accepted here, except that we could use the option no failed. So if you want to see everything that it tests, you can certainly do that. But in order to make this a little bit shorter, I'm going to say no-failed. So now we're only going to print the ones that are accepted. That should actually make the list quite a bit shorter. And then we can determine whether there are any ciphers that use outdated or old encryption mechanisms or short bit lengths in their key space. So anything under 128 bits, for example, would probably not be particularly good to use as an encryption cipher with the encryption mechanisms that we're actually using here. So now we've got a copy of the certificate that just spit out. The two preferred ones here are using RC4 with the secure hashing algorithm as opposed to MD5. And MD5 actually has started to develop some problems, and so SHA is a preferred hashing mechanism at this point. So it looks like Google is actually pretty good here. We're using all SSL version 3 or TLS version 1. There's no SSL version 1, SSL version 2. There's no DES in here anywhere. And there is AES, which is a really good mechanism. AES 256 is even better. So you can see that we've got some pretty good encryption ciphers here on this particular server. Now I could do, and I'm going to do this against a local system just to see what's installed here. And it looks like we've got reasonably good outcomes here as well, too. So this was a just out of the box install with a certificate in Apache. So it looks like out of the box, it comes with some reasonably good ciphers. But you could use SSLScan against any actual service that uses SSL. So LDAP, for example, sometimes uses SSL in order to secure the transport and encrypt it. Web traffic, of course, uses SSL. So any service that uses SSL, you could point SSLScan against it and see what encryption ciphers and mechanisms are actually being used there.